of you are, not first-time attendees, so you're familiar with who we are. I don't have to go through everything all over again. Disclaimer, basically we're here to share all the information that we've learned. Anyone in the room that has learned anything and shares information, we don't take liability for anything that might go wrong. And if there's any losses that due to uncontrollable circumstances such as economic factors, unforeseeable discoveries upon purchasing properties even after professional diligence, we do the best that we can to provide legitimate information for you to run with and legitimate resources for you to give you the best outcome possible when it comes to sharing the information that we have to provide. This is our agenda today. We are going to do some introductions, of course, just kind of like a quick reminder. I know we've all kind of heard each other's stories, but maybe some who haven't attended haven't heard some others. That kind of gives us a basis for who we are and how we can maybe connect together when it comes to working on deals with each other. Then that's the audience introductions, and then we'll have our presenter. And at the end, we can do open discussion, deal presentations. If anyone has anything to share, please share it with us, and we'll see how we can help each other out there. A couple housekeeping items. Keys at the front desk, hanging on the edge of the desk. You just grab those keys, go to the end of the hall by the cafe, and or should be there for the washrooms. Introductions. So I might start with, having people introduce themselves, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, what you're looking for, and maybe why you're here. So I don't know, maybe we'll start with Lisa.
Lisa Dougal drove up from Calgary, just have 3 doors out in Victoria right now. Kind of shopping around, mostly trying to collect knowledge and information just so I don't make bad choices. So that's why I'm here.
Well, I'm Holly, and I live in Lacombe, and I am just really happy to be alive and well today, and here we are learning more. Yeah.
I'm Tanner. I have a condo up in Edmonton, and I'm basically looking to get into real estate here in Red Deer.
McKenna?
I'm McKenna. Just moved here about 9 months ago, so the East Coast, and I'm here to learn market cycle.
I'm Keith from Red Deer. Just learning to get knowledge. The things I want to do, there's 2 things that need to be straightened out in my personal life. We're working on that, and then we'll move forward and get things done. So.
I'm Michelle Foster, and we have 3 rental properties, and we specialize in legally disputed. We also farm and sheep and dogs and pigs. So we diversify.
I'm Barry. I'm Michelle.
Okay, Tim?
Tim Barry. I'm one of the directors for CAREIA. I look scruffy. I'm doing the November and December. That's my story.
Sean?
Hi, I'm Sean Impey. I'm a long-time investor, a bunch of doors. Also mortgage broker, work mostly with investors for better financing, fix and flips, burger strategy, anything out of the unusual, or using normal bank financing. Yeah.
Cool. And then Gail and Terry are together, so.
I'm Gail, that's your husband. We're in Innisfail and we do some buy and holds there as well as anything else that comes along rent to own or whatever strategy might be available at the moment.
David?
I'm Dave, retired. I'm here to learn as much as I can about real estate, investing.
And I'm Danelle. I'm a mortgage broker, financial advisor, and investor, and I just love how I get to tie it all together and be creative.
Yes, I'll introduce myself too here. I'm Cindy. I helped create CAREIA, and we have 7 board members with us right now, which I'll introduce on here. I currently have 4 properties, one as a joint venture, 1 agreement for sale. 2 of them are suited, and pretty successful so far. We're looking at another deal here, potentially foreclosure, and need some work, so I'm seriously thinking about putting an offer in tomorrow. So excited about that one to add to our portfolio, and yeah, happy to help anyone else out and, moving them forward as well. So that's me. So for CAREIA, our mission is to be the premier real estate investing association in Central Alberta with a principal focus on educating, networking, and creative opportunities, of course, creating financial freedom through real estate and investing for everyone. These are our sponsors so far. There's Danelle, myself, Dan Dick with Solomon Financial, and Alex Burke with CERTA. Board of directors, I think most of you are familiar with all of us here in the room except Matthew Laverne. He's doing property management for Realty Store. We've upped our membership on the meetup page from 376 last month to 380 members, 168 likes on Facebook page, and our members are increasing on the private Facebook group. So we are encouraging people to buy into memberships. It really does help facilitate our group when it comes to bringing in speakers from all across Canada to Red Deer. It takes them a whole day to come here for us to give us and share the information that they have. So anyone that does drop in or buys membership fees will help, bring in reputable speakers when it comes to sponsoring them to come here. They also get exclusive access to our Facebook group where they get to post deals, respond to deals, network, see the recorded events as well. And this is the Facebook page right now. I think we're going to change that right now to CAREIA members only.
Yeah, so right now we're just gonna, if you're searching it, actually we're gonna invite everyone to the members only page anyways. But if you're looking for the members only page, we're just gonna rename it so that it's not 2019-2020 because we want to be able to use it year after year for our members that stay in. But just be aware that there's a members only page and then the generic CAREIA page so that everyone that's searching can find CAREIA and have the opportunity to join. But once you've joined, there's going to be the members only page that you'll have access to.
And yes, there's links to access to the live videos that are being recorded right now. So if you want to access those, you can on that page. Now, we can't technically invite all the members. I don't know why. I think unless we're friends with people, we can invite them. So you might have to search yourself for the group and request to be invited or to become a member, and we'll accept you if you pay for the membership. So why join? Of course, here's a list of reasons why we think you would benefit for joining. It's a $120 investment for essentially 10 meetings of the year, which is, I think, pretty good value, plus half for spouses, $60. It's a tax deduction. You get exclusive Facebook membership access again. Market updates, sponsorship posts, landlording tips, that there. So just a summary of prices. Drop-in fees are $20 if spouses are $10 if you do the drop-in. And you can pay for the memberships on www.careia.ca or send e-transfers to info@careia.ca. You don't need a password or question for that. Now, we are still promoting these books that was purchased last year with Seven Arnio. He's one of the coaches that we've had in the past couple years. He sold us a bunch of books that we're trying to push out forward to you as useful tools for your journey. So they're both the Black Book here, which we're selling for $15, and the High Performance Strategic Journal for $30. Original price $60 and $30 for that one. So come have a look if you're interested in buying one of those. And encouraging you to sign up for membership now, or our main speaker. Got a little intro here. So as I mentioned before, there's a couple of different ways to educate yourself when it comes to investing in real estate and taking action. You can self-learn, which is what I've done, and I've put myself through courses, but it's a long journey. Trying to self-educate yourself through watching seminars online and reading books. You can do that. Take seminars from formal real estate coaches, or you can get a coach. Now, the benefits of hiring a coach are many, and I truly believe this because coaches are experienced. They're legitimately coaches for a reason. Of course, you have to find the right coach that works for you when it comes to the dynamics and the strategies and the personalities. And make sure you research who you're working with. And we try to bring in very legitimate coaches when it comes to their presentations here. We believe that some of the many benefits of a coach is to mitigate risk through their current experience and knowledge, fast tracking your growth than what it would be for you to self-teach yourself, and reducing costly mistakes that might happen through first-time experience trying to do things on your own. So our next speaker coming up here, Doug Meyers, is a real estate investor and entrepreneur with investments across Western Canada. He began real estate investing at 21 in 2013, and while studying to become a mining engineer. After working full-time in the industry, he found he wasn't passionate and not satisfied with the quality or direction of his life. So over 2 years, starting in 2017, he started taking massive action, developing his real estate portfolio and building an investment business, which allowed him to pursue real estate business, speaking, serving others full-time, and hosting his Grow, Give, and Expand podcast. So yeah, very experienced there. So I can welcome Doug Meyers to come up.
Cool. Thanks, Cindy.
Give you this.
I look ghastly ill in that photo. I'm like,
I think it might be the
I'm
protector.
really white. I'm very aware of it. I'm going to Mexico in a couple of weeks. So I vowed with my lady friend that I'm going with. She says, you can't be both the skinniest and the whitest guy on the beach. So I'm in the gym right now. I know it doesn't look like it. So I will be the whitest. I probably, hopefully, won't be the skinniest. But yeah, I guess we've got to flip this over here to what was my presentation. So I'll do that here in a quick sec. Let's see here. That doesn't look quite right, eh?
Sorry.
We did test this. It was right. That's weird, eh?
Oh, it's strange. It's all going white.
Yeah, it's weird opening here. Let's see what happens.
Try closing mine.
Here we go.
Try you.
Weird, eh? Today we're learning about carbs. That was a little bit better. Cool. There we go. Okay. Cool. So, yeah. So thank you for the introduction, Cindy. As Cindy mentioned, I'm a real estate investor. I'm getting used to having to say that because for many years I was a mining engineer. That's what I'm trained as. I've got that engineering brain. My background is all in that. And I'll get into a little bit of my story here as we go through this. I want this to be an open conversation as well. So if you have a question about a particular strategy that was used in a real estate investment or wherever I was in the journey, please just put your hand up and I'll be happy to answer. Okay? But yeah, I mean, I was a mining engineer and I was able to, through real estate investing and through asking myself kind of the deeper questions about why I was doing this, really move towards what I actually wanted, which, if I get into it, is really understanding what it should really start out with for all of you is, what's your why? Like, what's the reason why you want to invest in real estate? And maybe ask a couple people what their why, like why do you want to learn about real estate? You volunteers? Sure.
I'm probably reasonably well set up myself, and I don't have a pension, but I suspect moving forward that my 3 sons will not have pensions, so I would like to teach them, learn enough to teach them how to create their own.
Right. So there's a bit of maybe transition and legacy for other people, right? And Holly, you had your hand up?
My why is that my job actually has a ceiling on salary. Whereas real estate, you can make more than that.
I'm gonna get into that for sure. Anybody else has been told what they're worth? Yeah? Capped out, this is what you're worth, this is it? That's me in a nutshell. Anybody else? Anybody else have a good why? Cindy?
I don't know what anyone else said, but my why is to establish a retirement fund. Like me being a realtor, I don't have a pension and, just build a portfolio that I can live off of when I decide not to work.
Yeah, so some of the things I'm hearing, freedom could be one of them, security, certainty, and of course, long-term for people beyond just you, right? So all admirable reasons, all really good whys. And so if you don't have a why yet, definitely start thinking about that in this presentation. Okay? And think about it as you continue to go along in your investing journey for sure. My original why when I started out was these 3 things. To create passive income, I needed to support my own life and my future family's life without working. And when I say without working, I just don't mean I didn't want to work for somebody else at a certain cap, okay? I love working. I came out here today to do this. This is kind of work for me. I don't mind this. This is great. But I didn't want to do it for somebody else. I didn't want to do it for the wrong reasons. In that piece, I wanted to create financial freedom. And when we say financial freedom, I think for a lot of people, and maybe I'm speaking a lot for myself though, is that it's not necessarily about what the money is able to do, and how it can create the time that you need to make the choices and the decisions and the outcomes that you actually want to have. So financial freedom leading to time freedom. And then I'll use those 2 opportunities to spend time doing things I love, spend time with the people that I love. But ultimately, it was about sharing my gifts with the world so that others can be inspired by my actions and then they can be their best self. Because if I didn't get to where I'm at now, I wouldn't be able to share a story. I wouldn't be able to stand in front of a room and be doing what I'm doing. I'd be behind a computer screen, filling out designs and doing all the stuff that I was doing before. I'd be miserable. And I'd be wondering, why am I not doing what I'm doing now? Okay? So that's really what it's about. And I couldn't do this if I didn't create the freedom. And then if I didn't create the freedom, how was I going to do it? Passive income. Okay? It is a bit more work than that, but we'll get into that. So I'm going to lead into the setup because the presentation name was 24 months to a great financial life by design, but there's a setup that leads into this. And so again, if anybody has any questions about some of the things we're used in here from a real estate standpoint, stop me, put your hand up, let me know. Okay? As Cindy said, I got started in August 2013. This is me as a 21-year-old. I used to play college basketball. I'm wearing a double XL t-shirt. I'm actually a medium. So this was the style. But this is me closing this first deal. I'm on the top of a mountain. It was kind of picturesque, and my parents are there with me. And I got the call from the realtor. They said, yeah, they've accepted your offer. And they accepted this offer on this beautiful duplex here. I paid $226,000 for this duplex. And as a 21-year-old, all my friends thought I was crazy. My parents thought I was a little crazy, but my dad's an entrepreneur and he's very supportive of the things that we do when we're trying to create business for ourselves. And so we saw this as an interesting opportunity. The bank said no to me because I was a university student, but I had a decent sized down payment for it. And so my dad running a successful business, I said, maybe your business wants to be a mortgage for this. And he said, we've got cash we're not using. Why don't we finance this for you? Now, not everybody has those options. Okay, I understand that completely. But the fact that I was willing to put it out there and say, I want to do something with this money and you guys can be a part of this journey, what do you think? And they said yes, and it got this started. So I've got a cash flowing duplex. I used funds I'd saved up from working door-to-door sales jobs and co-op jobs in the mining industry to make it happen. and this is the first one. And this property is what, in the future, I didn't realize at the time, but in the future would lead me towards basically everything that exists now. About a year later, I did a joint venture with my brother. His name is Mike Meyers. He kind of looked like Macaulay Culkin though when he was a kid, so lots of Hollywood here. But we bought this pre-development condo in Surrey. Of course, this is built now. But I said to my brother at the time, he was a mining engineer as well. He was doing well. And I said, Mike, we're not going to be able to actually cash flow on this building ever. It doesn't cash flow. I'm not advocating that, by the way. We're not going to cash flow here. But just in case you and we ever want to have a place to actually live in Vancouver, let's do this. We can have this place here. And if we do this now, in 3-4 years' time, we're going to be able to pull out $100,000 from this building. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm in. Okay, cool. So we did this. And I'll explain exactly what happened later in the story. But yeah, it's been rented since day one. It's a beautiful 2-bedroom condo, and we still own it. Fast forward a few years. I've graduated now, and I'm working in the mining industry. I live in small town Saskatchewan, and I'm starting to ask the question, is this it? I've been working now full-time for about a year and a half. I'm in this small town, and anybody who ever lived in small town Saskatchewan, or perhaps small town Alberta, there's a few things you do. You play hockey, you farm, and you drink Pilsner. And if you don't do any of those things, it's pretty hard to make friends. So I'm a city boy from Vancouver. I don't know who to talk to, and I'm bored out of my mind. I'm going, is this all it's going to be? Is the highlight of my life going to be what? Working here, doing this forever? This is no way for me to be. And so I decided, well, maybe I can get back into real estate. And it was interesting because I actually learned about the concept of refinancing from the landlord I was renting from in that small town. She quit her job at the bank, and she bought one property in the small town in Saskatchewan. She flipped it, made $100,000, took that money, bought 2 properties, both in a small town, started renting them out. This is back in the, I forget when this was. There was kind of an oil boom in Saskatchewan. The property values rose, and so did the rents. And she was able to take the rising values, refinance both those properties in a few years, and buy 2 more properties. Today, she owns 4 properties, free and clear, in just this little small town area in Saskatchewan. Okay, and she's bringing in around $7,000 to $8,000 free cash flow every month. And that's it. Her friends still work at the bank. They wonder, how did you do it? And she doesn't even bother because they won't listen. They didn't take action. They didn't say, I'm willing to do what you're willing to do. And that's how she did it. She did it through refinancing. And so she says to me, well, you've got this property in Prince George. Is there any equity there? I said, maybe. And so I looked it up. Turns out, 4 years later, this is July 2017, that property I bought for $226 was now worth $280. And I had paid down about $30,000 in mortgage over the course of 4 years. So I've got a spread there of about, $110,000 worth of equity. I can't pull it all out, right? Because you can only refinance up to 80% of the value of the home. But I had $54,000 there that I was able to pull out. So that says 50 years, 54. But I pulled that money out, and so I bought this triplex in Regina. Now I'm living in this home. I didn't pay for it. My other home paid for it. And I have 2 other tenants. My guys upstairs are paying $1,350. I've got a person down in the basement paying $1,200. And I'm living in the main unit for free. And the light bulb is just kind of going off like, all right, something's going on here. I got to figure this out. If I put a roommate in my unit, because they were all 2-bedroom, 1 bath, I'm going to be making money to live in my own home. That's crazy. If I have 5 of these, this game is over. I'm moving on, doing something else. Okay? So again, that light bulb is going off. Anybody know who this guy is? Scott McGilvery. He's a lot shorter in person. Freaked me out. I was like, I met him, he's like this tall. Anyways, I'm scrolling through a sports website. You know how to get those cookies, right? Cookie ads. and this ad for this wealth tour comes up. And interesting, real estate seminar? Sure, let's go to it. So I go to it, and in 2 hours, I learned 3 things that would have literally saved me thousands of dollars on previous deals. Like, okay, interesting. So they're selling the weekend workshop, right? $1,000. And then they sell you into the next thing for anybody who knows anything about Keyspire. So I got to decide, am I going to go to Mexico for a week? Or am I going to go to a hotel and learn about real estate with this guy, Alfonso, one of my mentors, one of my coaches, I guess you could say, and learn about this stuff. And so I made the decision, went to the workshop, and I became a Keyspire member. I'm not here to sell you on Keyspire, by the way. It's not what this is about. This company just really helped me get to where I needed to go because A, they gave me a coach to work with. B, they had a really good educational content, at least for what I wanted to see. Gave me an opportunity to go to an investor summit in Niagara, hang around in a room with 300 other people who are learning this stuff, and just get in the right rooms with the right people and make good connections. So it was totally worth it for me to do. So it may not be right for you. I'm not here to say one way or another. But what I did want to do was take that property portfolio that was 3 properties at this time and double it to 6. It's an ambitious goal for me because I didn't think I had any money. I thought if I got to 6, then based on the cash flows that I had, I could walk away from my job and I'd be okay to build it and continue to snowball. Okay? I was 26 at the time, so I gave myself a year until I turned 27. And so that's where this 24 months thing kind of came through. It wasn't exactly a plan per se, but that's how long it took. Okay? So again, these 3 things are guiding me: passive income, financial freedom, time freedom, and at the end of this, sharing the gift. Okay? So, it's 24 months begin. What's the start? It's education and setting up my business. Right? Guys, I literally spent 3 months. I almost put it up here, but I decided not to. I've just got like your notebooks. Like I've got notebook after notebook after notebook of notes. What was kind of cool about it was that when I was going through the program, I actually realized I'd done a lot of the things right just by chance or by accident. But if you're thinking about, how do I strategically build a business, or how do I build a real estate portfolio, it's not that hard. Do my revenues cover my expenses? What are all the expenses? How can I make more money? Intuitively, where do I want to buy a property? Do I want to buy it in the rundown neighborhoods, or do I want to buy it next to the university where I can rent it out to students because that's my profile, right? They're pretty simple questions, but again, if you don't necessarily have a mind for it, having the education and working with somebody or working with a program like this is really helpful, okay? So I became aware of those areas where I could do better. I evaluated what I'd done before, and then I started my business. Now this is, when I say business, this is really just a brand. It's more or less, a real estate holding company, right? I'm not out there actively promoting a real estate investing business. This is just where you hold the real estate, okay? Anyways, remember the condo in Surrey? So we pull $100,000 out of it? That was a fun day. We went to our guy and he said, we think this property is worth $450. We bought it for $330 3 years ago, and we thought that was expensive. And then it gone up to $450 because property values were just soaring. So again, we paid down a bit of mortgage, and we were able to pull out $100,000 in equity, which was incredible. It was actually 101. And then we took that money and we bought another property in Prince George. What was cool about this one is that it was actually the property right next door to the first property that I bought. So when I came up on the market, I was like, no freaking way, we're playing Monopoly. Like, when you have one property next to the other, the rents go up, right? That was a better joke. It doesn't actually happen. It doesn't actually happen in real life. But yeah, we went in there, my dad and I, and we're eating pizzas on makeshift tables and stuff, and doing some renovations, getting it fixed up, and getting it rented out, getting it ready. And so, using some of those newly found education and skills, I was able to negotiate 20 grand off the list price, which at the time was basically the cost of the membership in Keyspire. So already the return on the investment in myself and the education is paying off. Big time. I'm like, holy crap, if I can do this here again, how many more properties do I need in order to make this viable so that I can go quit my job, right? Property number 5 happened, I guess it was 4 months later. This is a 3-way joint venture. It was my dad who came in with the money. Okay, so he's the financial partner. I'm the working partner, and then we needed somebody to go on title. Okay, so for people here who maybe don't want to be a working partner, or for people who don't necessarily have the capital right now, but they have a really good job and they have access to credit, there are people in real estate who make money signing documents to be a person that holds the mortgage. And you might think if you've never done that before, that's really risky. I would challenge you on that, because when you own the title to the property, you get to make the decision at the end of the day whether or not you're going to move it, because it's got to run through you. Okay, so there's a lot of security and a lot of power in being on title. As a joint venture partner myself, in some of the flips that I do from a passive income standpoint right now, I always go on title, because even though my working partner is the guy doing the work, in order for us to sell the property, it's got to come through me. Okay, so alternative ways that you can make money in real estate without actually putting your money at risk. Okay, I say that in quotations. But anyways, there's a lady in this deal, no money. She just put her name on the mortgage because she could qualify. And we gave her equity for it. And we gave her a bit of cash flow for it. Right, so it's a win for her, it's a win for us. We got the deal done. And this is my first property purchased with somebody else's money, which is a cool feeling as well. Because when you start to get educated and you can show people what your track record looks like, then they trust you to make investment decisions. Or they don't necessarily have the time to do it, and they just want to see somebody else put in the work. That's where you can also make money in real estate, as a working partner. Okay, so there's a number of different ways.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You said that you're the one on title, but
Yes.
she has equity in it. Would she not be on title?
So for this deal, she's on title.
Oh, okay.
In this deal. In the flips that I do, I'm on title. My working partner who does the work is not. We have a joint venture agreement, right? But I'm the one that holds title to the real estate itself. Okay? So at the end of the day, when we go to sell the property, it's got to go through me. He can't basically circumvent the system and be like, I'm going to list this property that's under my name. He can't do that.
So does he have any equity in it?
He does.
He does?
That exists
But
through the
he
joint
doesn't-
venture.
Okay.
Okay, so separate contract or separate agreement, a joint venture agreement, essentially. It's a legal document that says this is what we're gonna do with the property, here's who owns what, here's who's bringing what to the table, here's what each partner's gonna do.
And does it keep it on title recognizing that?
Yes, yeah, correct. And so that joint venture agreement specifies that I'll hold title on behalf of the joint venture, in which case the joint venture is partly owned. Okay, no, sorry, that's the wrong way of putting it. 50% of the ownership in the property is me, 50% of the ownership in the property is him. But my responsibility within that is to hold title for both of us.
How does that work
Okay.
in case of like a foreclosure then? Is the
Foreclosure.
bank go over after both of you
The-
or just you?
The bank, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't fully know because I haven't had that happen. Yes. Does anybody perhaps know the answer to the question? Sean?
Yeah, foreclosures on whoever's on title. So, are you
Yeah.
financing these through banks or through privates? Or how
They're
do
through
you-
privates for the flips.
I was gonna ask how you got
Hmm.
beneficial interest from somebody else in the property, but past the bank.
Yeah. So that brings up a good point. When you go to do financing like this, you have to make sure that you're telling the bank, if you're the one on title, who has beneficial interest in the property. If you don't, you can get caught for mortgage fraud, essentially. Right? So very important thing to pay attention to, of course. Any other comments on that, Sean? Just
Do
someone
you use
say anything I should be?
private individuals or do you use mix or how do you?
It's a private individual. But you said earlier you do fix and flip financing, so I think we need to talk.
You do that?
Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep that in mind. This building here tested the resolve of my why. It was the start of it. Because when I took ownership of this thing, or as a working partner, I've got other people's money in it, I've got other people's names on title. So now I'm like really putting I'm putting myself out there from an investment standpoint. So I gotta make sure this deal works. First week, I have the tenant in the basement. The tenants in the basement started fighting with each other, right? One guy calls me, he says, oh, buddy's doing drugs in the basement. I'm out of here. FU's on the phone to me. I'm like, what? You were so cool. I thought we were friends. And 2 weeks later, they had left the basement in a mess, and I had to go there and fix it up. And my joint venture partner, who's on title, is going, are we losing money? And I had to deal with the communication there. And so, you know, you start to have some of these things happen. You're like, okay, is this what it was all about? Right? It does challenge you. You're going to have these things come up. I know they did for me. This was the start of it. But again, because I had a really strong why and I had a really good reason why I was doing this, it helped push me through it. Right? Come on in. And then I accomplished the goal. This is property number 6. This is the first flip to yourself investment strategy. Flip to yourself, same as BRRRR strategy, okay, buy, renovate, refinance, rent, okay? So that's what this is. You can see before and after. This is what it looked like. It was this nice 1960s condo that had been renovated to the 80s and needed a little bit of a facelift. And so I saw this as an opportunity to get my hands dirty and do a renovation myself. We bought this property using borrowed money from private lenders and from banks. Okay, so this property, when I bought it, was fully leveraged. Okay, we got to run the numbers on that, make sure it works. Renovated the condo to create some active appreciation, refinanced it out, and then put a tenant in there over time. Now, I make that sound easy. This property nearly wiped me out. Okay, it's a 1-bedroom condo, but when combined with a number of other things that happened, again, that all tested my why. I'm not telling you the story to scare you away from doing this. What I am telling it for you is to, again, explain why it's so important to have a good reason for doing this all. Because you can get to where you want to go, but chances are you're going to have some things that come up along the way that are going to make it a setback for you. You may lose a bit of money. You may have a bad tenant. You may have to do something that you don't want to do. And so when you have those moments, if you got those reasons, they help drive you through. Okay? So after accomplishing the goal, I thought, great, what do I do now? So I took on another project, literally a week later. Same thing in Regina, right? This is what it looked like, foreclosure. So I went in there, borrowed private money from a person in the Keyspire network, got another private mortgage, and I started to do this renovation. Now, you can kind of see I can't be in 2 places at one time. I've got a condo in Calgary that needs to be renovated and refinanced, and then I've got another one in Regina here that needs the same thing. Meanwhile, I'm still working full-time in Saskatchewan, right? Work 4 days on, 3 days off. So my life building this portfolio and doing a full-time job is like, this is what I do. But I want to get out of the full-time job, so this is what was required, okay? So I like this because I had to learn the actual handyman skills. I was really scared of a power saw, you know, the chop saw. And so laid all the floor on this, did all the trim and everything. And I can honestly say I know how to renovate now. And I know how to budget it, and I know how to talk to a contractor and figure out how long everything's going to take. So this is a really good experience from that standpoint. But I had to, as a result, joint venture on the condo in Calgary that we were doing. So I got a partner there. He ran a renovation company. He wanted to get into long-term buy and hold real estate. And so I said to him, well, why don't you do the renovation? You can tenant it, I'll finance it, and then we'll move forward. Okay? So everything is lined up. It's all working well. And then, you know, the bottom eventually falls out. This is what it looked like at the time. Okay, so at the, not at the start, but after having the 7 properties, I'm at 7 now. I had done some other deals. I did some private lending. I have some private equity partnerships, and I have 2 pre-development condos in the Vancouver area. So the portfolio at the time was 7 properties, 13 doors. I'd done 11 real estate investments. The total value of it was $2.4 million, and I had gone from 3 to 7 in 12 months, achieving that goal ahead of schedule. I'm like, yeah, I'm rocking it. This is great. This is just what I wanted, right? And then some things started happening. And so I have this up here as quality questions, quality life. And again, it goes back to, okay, well, when shit starts hitting the fan and you're asking yourself, why are you doing this? What are the answers to those deeper questions? This lady, never actually met her. Her name's Karen. I wish I had a better picture of her. I screenshotted it off the internet. She's an investor out of Ontario. She strictly does private lending. She makes about $80,000 a year providing loans for people. Kind of crazy, right? She just lends money. But $80,000 a year. Who here would like to just sit in Sweden as weird as, yeah, I got on a call with her. She was in Sweden. And she's like, yeah, I'm just hanging out here and, enjoying the weather. I was like, really? It's wintertime. It's probably cold there. She's like, no, it's cool. Like, what do you do? She says, I lend money. She's like, get out of here. How much do you make? She says, yeah, about $80,000. Just lending money. It's possible. So you don't always have to own property in order to be a good real estate investor. Okay? A lot of people do it passively by just lending money. So maybe that's an option, just saying. But anyways, she had seen a post that I had made. I was writing a daily blog through all of this, which is insane. And I had written a post on gratitude. And at the time, to paint the picture, I'll tell you how all this kind of played out. I had that condo in Calgary. The renovation got completed. My partner, because he was so busy running his own company, couldn't actually have found a renter for the condo. And he wasn't actually dropping the rental rates to try and get somebody into it. And so we're stuck there with an untenanted condo. Through a lack of diligence on my own part, I had missed some things about the building, and we were having a problem refinancing it. Okay? Now we did eventually get there, but you can imagine my initial thoughts was, holy shit, if I can't refinance this, what do I gotta do? Do I gotta sell it for a loss? Do I keep it and pay private money still? Like, what do I do? And he basically, the partner said, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. So I got to go to Calgary. We dissolved the joint venture partnership. I got to buy him out because now it's worth a lot more than it was when we paid for it. And I've got to go tenant the property in Calgary. While this is happening, back in Saskatchewan, at my job there, back to the, I forget who it was here who said they put a cap on my income. I think it was you, Holly. There was a guy who worked in a different department in our mine. He got hired in my department. He had less experience than I did, less seniority than I did, and they hired him for 10% more than what I was making. I found out about it. Okay. I then got offered a full-time job about 2 months later. And I'm thinking, oh, this is what the salary mark is at. They offered me basically 10% less than what they had offered him. And I did what any brash-headed young guy would. I fought for it. And I said, you're paying him 10% more. How come? And of course, they didn't really like that. But my manager, my supervisor, and my supervisor's supervisor were all sitting there and like, guys, this doesn't make sense. Like, what's the deal? And they said, well, the company's changing, we're restructuring, and there's new salary requirements and all that stuff. And if you don't like it, you can test the market. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll test the market. So I did, and I ended up getting a job back in BC. Okay, so I know there's a lot of pieces here that I'm moving. At Calgary condo is still vacant. It's renovated, it's done, we can't refinance it. The property in Regina that I fixed up myself, I now no longer need, right? It doesn't fit my rental portfolio, so I'm not gonna keep it. I was renovating it so I could live in it, and I'd have a place there while I was at work, but now I'm not gonna keep it, and I'm going to move back to BC. So I take all my stuff, move to BC, and I've got a vacant property, the renovation in Regina, number one. We've got the vacant property in Calgary, all the issues there. And while this is all going on, I actually have 4 vacancies come up in all my other doors. So I've got a portfolio of 13 doors at the time, and I've got 6 vacancies, and I'm bleeding cash, right? All the money from my job is going towards paying off my real estate investments, and I'm just like, this isn't the way it's supposed to work. Nobody told me this in the manual. So I'm calling people. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And again, I'd written that blog post on gratitude. At a moment when I was feeling incredibly ungrateful, I'm in Prince George, where the new job is now, back in BC. It's freezing cold. I'm lonely. I'm in this giant Airbnb, and I've got all this mess behind me. But I accomplished my goal, right? I accomplished my goal, and then some. But I actually feel like I'm further away from where I actually wanted to go. I had lost track of the reasons why I was doing it, and it was completely burning me out. And I was literally at the rock bottom, even though I had been so, quote, quote, successful. And so this lady read my blog post. She sent me a message. She's like, I really appreciated that post. Thank you for that. I said, oh, you know what? Let's connect. And so we got on the phone. She was in Sweden. And she says to me, tell me about what's going on. I give her the big, rah-rah after she tells me she lends money, because I'm thinking, yeah, maybe she'll lend money to me. But then I tell her what's really going on, because we were chatting for well over an hour. And I say, I'm at the bottom of the bottom right now. Like, I don't know what to do. Here's everything I just told you. Like, I'm kind of stuck. And she goes, well, why'd you get into real estate investing in the first place? And so, I told her 3 things. I told her my why. And she goes, oh, interesting. So if you were to sum it all up in one word, what word describes your why? Curious, what word based on this did you guys think? Security? Okay.
Legacy.
Freedom. Freedom.
Legacy.
Sure. Right? Yeah. Legacy is definitely a big piece. But freedom was the reason. Right? And she goes, well, if your why is freedom, why don't we just try and get back to that? I'm like, oh, that's so easy. She says, well, how are we going to do that? And so she starts asking me questions. She's like, Doug, she started being all motherly. I don't know what it is about women that age. No offense to anybody. She started being all motherly with me. She's like, well, how old are you, Doug? I'm 27. She goes, and how many properties do you own? 7. She goes, I know 27-year-olds who don't know how to tie their own shoes. You're doing okay. She's like, oh, thanks, Mom. Right? She's doing okay. She goes, what can you do right now in this portfolio to get you back to freedom? If we got you back there, would that make you happy? I said, absolutely, that's where I want to go. She goes, okay, well, what can you do? Look at your portfolio. You own 7 properties. What can you do? I'm like, I don't know, I've got to buy 6 more in order to get the cash flow I need, right? Because that's kind of what you're taught. It's like, buy more property, get more cash flow, and eventually in 5-10 years, you'll have mortgages paid down, you'll have that access, and you can walk away from your job and go retire in Belize. Right? That's the script. But what about today? What about now? Right? We had this idea in our mind, we got to sacrifice everything in terms of happiness right now for a future goal. And I think there's a piece of that that's important. If you like your job, you like what you're doing, great. Keep moving along, and then one day when you can leave, you've got the real estate to do it. Perfect. But that wasn't me, and I was really unhappy in that situation. So I had to make a choice. Am I going to continue to go on the vision that everybody else had painted for me, buy more property, get eventually enough cash flow, and then walk away? Or do I do something different? The question is, well, what's the different thing? She goes, well, why don't you sell a house? I'm like, what? No, we're supposed to keep them, buy and hold, right? It's not buy and sell, it's buy and hold. Unless you're a realtor, right? It's buy and hold. She says, are you going to be upset if you have 1 less property in 10 years? Or are you going to be more upset about not actually getting to where you want to go because you were holding on to something that wasn't working for you? I said, whoa, interesting. She goes, are you emotionally invested in any of these? I said, no, they're investments. She said, cool, well, why don't you sell a property? I was like, wow, it really is. It was that simple. right? Just in terms of the mental side of things, to get past that little barrier and know that that was possible. And she says, well, what does the portfolio look like if you had one less property? And this will sound a little bit arrogant, but I said, if I'm worried about having one less $300,000 property in 10 years, I'm not playing big enough. And she goes, okay, you have your answer. I told the same thing to one of my best friends. He's like, the passwords on your computer aren't freedom 50, but freedom 30. And that's in 3 years. So why don't you just do this, right? So I did. I lost track of this. I put this slide up here to tie into some things later. We have relationships with all things financial, right? You have a relationship with money. It may be a positive one, it may be a negative one, it may be one that really holds you back, right? You have a relationship with your intentions, your goals, and your aspirations. This is different from actually having inspirations, goals, or intentions, goals, and aspirations. It's a relationship to it. And when you, I guess, get off course between the relationship with those two things, that's when you can fall off like I did. I had this life goal, I had this thing, I want to quit, I want to be free, I don't want to work in this job. My vehicle for that was real estate investing, right? So there's a financial component that needs to support my life's intentions and goals. And when we don't have a good relationship between the two, like I had lost track of, I was living in the moment, being very emotional about everything that was happening, then that's when we get off course. And it was a simple question of, when I had that conversation with Karen, getting back to the reasons why. And our why exists within the relationship that we have to those things. Okay? So it started with a plan. Because it's good enough to assess where you are or understand where you are. In order to get to where you want to go, again, where I wanted to go being freedom, I've got to create a plan, right? I got to do this. I got to refinance that condo. I got to get all these negative things that are happening in my portfolio to get fixed, okay? I got to refinance the condo. I got to get into action working on some other income streams. Legacy, this is the company that I'm a part of. Work as a financial life professional, a real estate investment advisor, okay? I actually work on helping to build the company as well. So there's a couple of different income streams in there. And it's much more in line with what I actually wanted to do, right? Very different from being an engineer making designs. I got to sell that property in Regina. It's making me bleed cash. I've got to establish another passive income stream, a flipping business. I'm not going to get too much into details. We can a little bit later in a question format. But based on the real estate investing knowledge that I had done renovations and refinances. I had access to capital. I was able to get mortgages. Okay, I had a high-paying job. I was able to get access to a lot of credit as a result of that, lines of credit, HELOCs, those kinds of things. And so I could use that money to make money, right? Set that up. This is what Karen suggested. Sell your property in Prince George, that very first property. Based on the numbers I was projecting, if I could sell it, I'd get about $50,000 and I'd survive for a minimum of 12 months, establishing financial freedom. So I want to kind of earmark this for a second. Number one, $50,000 is way more money than I need to live for 12 months. Okay, that's number one. The second piece is establish financial freedom. You know, I think we have two concepts of financial freedom. One is a short-term one, and another one is a really long one. And I think a lot of us kind of get caught up, I know I did, in I gotta have financial freedom. That means I gotta have all the income I need forever established right when I take the step off or I jump away from a job, and that's the end of my income earning days. I'm only gonna do passive income from now on. Then we think we're financially free. And that's such a huge amount of time that can be, at least in my opinion, overwhelming. What I wanted to do was, why don't I establish freedom for 12 months? If I can't figure out what I gotta do to generate new income streams in the way that I wanna do them in 12 months, okay, then I can go do something else. But this is my window, right? So maybe the question isn't how can I create financial freedom for a lifetime, yeah, that's a piece of it. Maybe your question could be, how can I create financial freedom for 4 months, for 6 months, so that I could walk away from something, give myself the time to figure it out, and then try. And if I do, great, keep rolling with it. If I don't, then I can fall back on something else. Okay? So just something to think about. The last thing I had to do was prepare for life after the job. At the hand in my notice, this was my last day of work, as planned. Okay, set a date. It's a really key piece. Like, when do you want to have something done by? Because then that pushes you into action to make it happen. Pretty much all of these things have dates, with the exception of this one. This is what it looked like. I've got nice, fun, fancy templates and stuff that make it a bit better now, but it's cliche, right? The plan to quit my job and start doing what I really want with my life. And I mapped it out on a week-by-week basis. Yeah, not super detailed, but this was my after-tax money. Here's what I was going to make. You can see here, I've got to sign mortgage docs here. I've got to pay out my lenders, right? I put everything in here based on the dates that I had set out on that previous slide. As we kind of go through this, prep property to take to the fair. Okay, so I guess, I don't know where this comes from, I heard it. Apparently, before you take a pig to the fair to sell it, you make it look nice. So my first property was really ugly at this point. So I'm like, okay, I gotta take that thing to the fair, we'll fix it up. Some other things in here, right? Like, give notice, have the property sold, end of July, or end of June. And then lastly, again, cliches, first day of the rest of my life. I don't know, man, it's embarrassing, but it's fun, right? So that's what it looked like, right? I don't know what it looks like for you. Maybe it's a nicer template, but at the end of the day, just writing it out and having something in ink that you put down, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, this is how it's gonna happen, here's what I need to do, and then all of a sudden you put that out there for the world to kind of see, you start vibrating on it, right? And all of a sudden the pieces kind of start to fall into place, as long as you're working towards it. So again, I'll show you the plans on the left. With the Prosper is this. Have the condo financed, refinanced, right at the end of March. Found a bank that would do it. Took a lot of work, but we found it was funny, it was one of the big 5 banks, Canada. Couldn't believe it. Began working in and on this legacy, March 15th. Sold the property in Regina, literally the last day of April. We started our first flip in Regina on April 23rd. We sold it on August 29th, so it was a 4-month flip. It was a good, profitable flip as well. I sold that property in Prince George on June 6th. I had multiple offers. It sold above the asking price. And instead of 50 grand, I ended up with over 60 grand. So I've established that financial freedom for a 12-month window and beyond. And the last day of work as scheduled was August 27th. That was 2.5 months ago, I guess, right? And so I had started in Keyspire at the end of August in 2017. That was 2 years to get to a point where I could be, at least for now, financially free, to do the things that I want to do, to be the person that I want to be, to make the choices, and to create something new, right? I think, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but a lot of us get into real estate for those reasons, right? We want to experience this, I guess, right? It's 100% possible. It won't be easy, but it's completely possible. And I believe it starts with a strong why. Okay? Now there's lots of pieces behind it, as you were clearly seeing. But that's where it starts. And where it ends is really, in a lot of ways, where it begins. Because the end of my old life is now the start of a new one that I'm excited to do. I'm excited to get on a plane this morning to come out and talk to you guys. Right? I'm excited to fly on the plane back tonight. Like, that's a cool day for me. The difference between that versus waking up at 4 a.m., going to the gym for a bit, eating a really shitty camp breakfast, going to work for 12 hours, the first thing I do is turn on my computer, mess around in a spreadsheet. I'm dealing with guys that smoke 50 cigarettes a day. All they do is swear. They don't have any ambition. It's just their life. Versus hanging out in a room with a bunch of people who want to get better. Like, that's cool. That's a fun time. This is kind of what it looks like, right? Here's my man, Scott. Okay, so this is I have one of my mentors, Alfonso. He does this thing. He calls it taking checks to the bank. You know, November 1st, you take the checks to the bank for rent, okay? And his move is like this. He's like, taking checks to the bank. That's the form. So Scott is just like, he doesn't get the move. I tried a bunch of times, like, Scott, come on, man. It's like, no. Anyways. And along the way, I got the RAIN Rookie of the Year award. For those of you who know RAIN, Real Estate Investment Network, Intelligence Network, that's for the most properties transacted in your first year of membership as a RAIN member for this past year in 2019 for people in BC, right? So it was cool. I was not expecting to win this. I mean, you hang around enough of these rooms, you realize that, you know, owning 3 properties or owning 7 properties like I did at the time it feels small. But when you go outside of that universe, you go, holy shit, like 1%, or no, I think it's 4% of Canadians own investment real estate. And then it's like 1% of the 1% own more than 3 properties, I think. I may be misquoting the stats, but like it's a very small amount of people. You just happen to be in the rooms where you're with all those small people, and you hear guys, they own 100 doors, they own 200 doors, they do 50 flips in a year, and you think you're small. But at the end of the day, if you own 3 properties, you're actually crushing it in comparison to most people from a real estate investing standpoint. And this, I don't know, it's cool. It's just cool to be a part of that. I want to pause here for a sec. Does anybody have any questions? Anything that was unclear through the real estate investing side of things, through the any of the memberships or anything like that? Any questions? No.
Yeah, what is Karen's contact number?
You looking for money? What's that?
Old ones.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to look it up for you. So what does this mean now? Again, this was the property that we sold. Bought it for $226, August 2013. Sold June 2019 for $306. So $80,000 gain in 6 years, right? It's not, it's not an insane amount of money, but it's a solid return on investment, right? Some of these other properties here, this is the condo in Surrey, the triplex in Regina, that was the foreclosure we did. This is the most recent property transaction that we did. That was a cool one. I was telling Cindy about that earlier today.
Is that a flip?
It's a buy, renovate, refinance. Same kind of deal. Numbers on this one. I bought this for $295 on a bank, a quarter sale. Bought it with all cash or private money again. Nothing wrong with this building. It was a 2015 duplex. It sat on the market. The original owner owned it for quite some time. He had totally over leveraged it. They tried to sell it. They couldn't do it. They kept dropping the price. Regina market's been slow. Eventually, he just handed in the keys. The bank took it. They had multiple deals come through where people couldn't get their financing in place. So deal after deal wasn't happening. Price kept coming down. And so I get those notifications from my realtor there. And I saw this same address come on my email like 5 times. And then in August, it came up again. I was like, I know this property. I swear I've seen this like 6 times. Sure enough, boom, boom, November, December, March, April, like something weird's going on. So I called up my guy and said, you gotta check this property out for me. What's going on? He said, oh, it's quarter of sale. They've had like 4 or 5 offers go through it. They've all failed due to financing. People just can't get the deal in. I was like, okay, here we go. It was listed for $319. At this point, it's just the lawyers who own it, right? They're just, well, not, I don't say they own it. They're representing it. So they don't care. They just want to get it done and get it off the plate. So we went in there all cash for $295. Said, yeah, done, right? I have my guy there who flips homes with me in Regina, check it out. He's basically a home inspector. So there's nothing wrong with this. You gotta clean it up and you gotta put the stucco on. They didn't finish the outside. They just had the scratch coat. So it cost me 10 grand to put the stucco on and do some other fix-ups. All in, we're gonna be in it for about 17 grand with the carrying costs. It took me 3 weeks to fix it up. It took me 3 weeks to get it tenanted. And at the end of 3 weeks, they reappraised it for $362,500. So after all my money in, on paper, mind you, on paper we made a little over 50 grand in 3 weeks. And this is kind of some of the stuff that when you start to get educated and you start looking for the deals, they appear, right? I'm not rushing this kind of deal, but when it comes up, I know how to act fast. We get in there, we get it done. I don't listen to anybody else who's telling me otherwise. Oh, that's a tough street. I'm like, really? I just walked down it. I met all the neighbors. They love me. I think it's going to be okay, right? Oh, you can't tenant in Regina? The vacancy rates are high. Really? People are just writing shitty ads. Pardon my language. They don't have this kind of product. This is a brand new duplex, right? You got to tune out all the noise, all the people saying you're crazy. Like, no, this is what I can get. Now, I had to fight with the appraiser to get that value, and frankly, I think he gave us a low value, but nonetheless, right? We made 50 grand-ish on paper in 3 weeks, and this building's gonna cash flow for us about $400 a month, right? And we're gonna put in, after that new mortgage is on place and everything, we're basically gonna pay about $25,000 for this home. If you bought this home today from me, right, and you bought it for $362,500, you'd have to come up with that down payment and all the closing costs. So instead of paying 25 grand for this building like I did and a little bit of work, you'd be paying 80 grand for this building and having the same result, okay? Not saying that that's a bad thing to do, but when, again, you have, I guess, some experience, you're looking for some creative ways to make money in real estate, then those kinds of deals start to show up, and if you have the confidence to act on them, the access to resources to get what you need, then you can do them, right? Does everybody understand how that worked? Okay, awesome. Any other questions? No? Cool. So, what am I doing now? Aside from being a real estate investor and continuing to doing deals like this, I like speaking. I hope this has been entertaining and interesting for you. And I like coaching people. I like, A, giving people a bit of a kick in the ass, but B, also giving people the motivation and inspiration they need. Because, let's put it this way, not even for myself, it's nice to have somebody else to push certain activities on, right? Like I hate bookkeeping. So I give the bookkeeping to the bookkeeper. If I hate being held accountable to myself, why don't I push my accountability off on somebody else so that they can do it for me? That way I can just do what I need to do, right? What about my education plan? I can push that off onto somebody else so that they can create it for me and then I just go do it. Okay, so there's value in doing that. So now within real estate, with the experience that I have, I do want to help people create real estate investment portfolios, but I also want to have a bigger conversation, right? So if you can stick with me on this, there's kind of two streams. One of these is just real estate investing, coaching, assistance, guidance, consulting, whatever you want to call it. And then a bigger question is it really surrounds why are you doing this? And that conversation for us is your financial life, okay? And your financial life and real estate investing are more or less tied together, right? Because real estate is creating the income you need to live a life that you want, right? So this financial life professional, as it were, it's a new designation, it's a new term. And what that's really about is getting people clear on, again, why are you doing the things that you're doing from a financial standpoint in order to create the things that you want to create in your life. In RAIN, the Real Estate Investment Network, we talk about this as like financial freedom by design. But the conversation kind of ends there. It's for you to figure out. sometimes it's nice to have somebody to have that conversation with who's not incentivized by you making a transaction with them. Not to be mean to anybody who is a realtor or a mortgage broker or anything like that. It's a different thing, right? But in having worked with people, and this literally happened 2 weeks ago, I had a lady approach me. She says, I want to talk with somebody about financing, but I don't want to talk with a mortgage broker because I don't want them to feel like I'm obligated to do a deal with them, because that's how the mortgage brokers are getting paid by commission, right? So I know you're a mortgage broker. I hope that doesn't land incorrectly, but it was really interesting to hear that from somebody. Because I was like, I have no problem talking to a mortgage broker. Like, I could have that conversation with you in a day. I'll have that conversation with Sean later. Like, how can you help me? And share with me the options. But she was actually afraid to have that conversation with them because she was scared that she'd ask the wrong questions. She was scared that she would have to do a deal with them. Like, a lot of things came up for her. And that wasn't anything to do with learning about it. That was just her relationship with money and how her relationship with money was leading to blocks in her being able to do what she needed to do. So if I can capture that within a financial life professional conversation, that's just us having the conversation to work through that roadblock. And in the process, I can give her the information, tactically speaking, on the financing side of things that she also needs to hear, right? I think this click here. I know. Do you know what this means? Can you use it? It's flashing 7.
No,
Did I do something?
maybe. Just take out the battery. Set.
Another battery or anything like
No, it's good now.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. So again, to tie that back in with my experience, right? Where I was at the beginning and where I was basically 8 months ago was figuring out, okay, I've gone off course from what my original why was. And Karen basically got me back on course through a little conversation. I was like, gosh, if I had Karen on my team every day, working with me on a week-by-week basis, I'd really like that. And I actually want to be that person for other people, right? But it starts with, okay, where does my journey begin? I've got to assess that. I've got to figure out. If I'm in Vancouver and I'm going to Vegas, it's a very different route from if I'm in Toronto and I'm going to Vegas. We're going to the same destination, but where we're starting is going to dictate a different route. So within the conversations that we have and some of the things that I do when I help coach people is to figure out, okay, well, where are you at in your financial life from an intentional standpoint? What are your intentions? What are the things that are really important to you that are driving this conversation around real estate investing? For me, that thing was freedom, right? Freedom was number 1. Number 2 was creativity, right? I wanted to be able to create. I wanted to be able to present. So those were some of the intentions that were guiding me towards my financial freedom, right? And so if you can figure out what those are, that's a great place to start. Now you know what your intentions are, why you're doing this, at least on a subtle level. The next thing that we also do is talk about how prepared are you right now. Now, I was financially prepared to deal with the financial struggle that existed 8 months ago when I had all the vacancies and the properties that were empty. Like, I had enough money, luckily. If I didn't, I'd be in a very different situation right now. So evaluating where you're at from a preparedness standpoint is another conversation, right? Do you have the proper insurance policies do you need? Is your rental portfolio insured the way it should be? Are you taking advantage of all the tax opportunities that you have? Do you have enough money in the bank to live for 6 months or however long you need, right? It's insane when I hear people saying, I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm like, you've been working for 5 years now. How are you living paycheck to paycheck? They say, oh, I know, it just happens. Like, really? How? The last thing here would be your adversity response profile. So again, to go back to say things that are negatives that happen in your life, how much can you influence them, right? Do you have enough money to last if tomorrow you got laid off from your job? Do you have the ability to influence a health scare situation that may come up? For example, my grandma right now, she lives in Chartwell Residences in Vancouver. I think it's like $3,000 a month to live in this place, full room and board. Like, it's not cheap, right? And well, that actually sounds pretty cheap, maybe more. But still, I'm like, if she wasn't financially prepared for that, instead of living the rest of her days out in a little bit more peace, she could be doing, I think, what maybe a lot of seniors are doing. They're really struggling. They don't have the healthcare they need. They have, I guess, mobile devices that actually impede their movement as opposed to really helping them out, right? These are the things that you need to think about if I'm asking myself, am I prepared for the problems that could eventually happen? How much can I influence the situation? So that's an adversity response profile. And using those three things, you can figure out what is your financial life quotient. Like, there's an emotional quotient, an intelligence quotient. This is the same thing, but for your financial life. You put them all together and you can kind of see, like, all right, where am I sitting? And based on where I'm at now, what are the areas in my life that are potential dangers? Where am I doing really well? What are the opportunities that exist for me? Where can I expand on different spots? For example, I went back to the point earlier about people who make money in real estate just signing mortgages, right? You might not even know that because of the result of you having really stable long-term employment, that you are really good credit risk for a bank to take on real estate. That could be an area that you can explore. If you're a high income earner, like I was as an engineer, you can access a lot of credit, okay? Now, responsibly accessed, that can be really beneficial. But before I left my job, I made as many relationships I could with as many banks as possible, and I secured as many lines of credit as I could. Okay, so I have a lot of access to lines of credit. I don't use it all at once. I use it responsibly to invest in the assets that I invest in. But if I didn't know that I could actually do that, I wouldn't be able to do the flipping business that I do right now. I'm making money on the bank's money, right? And a lot of us, we just don't actually know that we can do that, right? That may be an area you can expand on. Maybe you don't have any insurance, or you don't have a will. That's the big one. I wrote a will on Tuesday. Freaked me out. It's like, shit, I'm gonna die one day, right? But how many people don't have a will? And they own asset after asset after asset. Nobody knows what's gonna happen, right? So in doing some of these assessments and figuring out where you stand, you can really get a sense of, okay, I gotta fix this area. Here's where I'm doing really well. Here's where I can expand on some things, right? This is from a financial life standpoint. That does, however, tie into the real estate conversation, okay? From there, you can compare. This is one of the things that we offer, and one of the products that I use with people when we're going through a coaching conversation, to say, from a financial preparedness standpoint, where is everything? Show of hands here, who knows all the passwords to all their accounts that they have online? Anybody? Right? Tim?
It's all the same one.
Yeah. So what's the password, Tim? Like, do you know who the contacts are for your insurance company if you needed to make a call and you need to make a quick claim, right? Do you know what's your, where is your will if you have a will, right? Are those insurance policies up to date? Is your current financial plan up to date? Where does all this stuff actually live? And if it's all in different places, when shit hits the fan, right? Let's say the basement's flooding, and we need to figure out who I got to call right away. I don't want to be thinking about where's my contact? What's his name? What's the phone number? Who do I go to? I want to go bang. It's in my vault. Here's where everything lives. I find the number, I pick it up, I deal with what I got to deal with. That's what this is about. This is about knowing where everything is, right? And this goes into incredible detail about to, what's your documentation, all the, your driver's license number, your health care cards, everything like that, your life insurance policies, name, company names, numbers. And of course, for real estate, all the properties, right? Sometimes we just lose track of this stuff, or it exists online or on a hard drive, and that's it. It's just a digital copy. Well, I think we need to have both. We need to have digital, we need to have hard copy. That's what this is. You can do it on both. The last piece of this is, of course, to prosper. And so once you've figured out where you are, what you're prepared for, what you can expand on, is then make a plan for it, right? You've made the plan, pardon me. Now you just got to execute on it. So again, back to where we were. What are your dangers, right? All those things. What kind of opportunities do you have? What are you doing really well at? High income earner, you own lots of real estate, you have a lot of equity, right? You're really well connected. I know lots of people, they don't have a lot of money, but gosh, they know a lot of people. And they really can leverage that. Where can you expand? And from there, let's figure out what it looks like. Let's actually calendarize it, right? What's the intention? The original intentions up here. Figure them out. Okay, what am I doing the first week? What am I doing week 2? What am I doing week 3? Build that plan with somebody, and then put it into action. And then have that person hold you accountable to it, right? Again, this is all, we're talking about financial life as the concept, but the vehicle is through real estate, right? So if somebody's working with me, then they're working with me out of the context of we're investing in real estate. I'm not a licensed advisor of any kind, right? I'm not going to say, go put your money here, and then this is how we're going to do it. I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not licensed to do anything like that. But if somebody identifies through the course of our conversation, I'm really conservative. I don't want to own any property, but I do want to be involved in real estate. What can I do? Okay, well, maybe you could consider a bond fund. Maybe you can consider a REIT. And then I can push them in the direction and say, hey, go talk to this guy. Go talk to this guy. That's really what it's about. Connecting people to the things that they need, and then just holding them accountable to it. And then, of course, at the end of the day, it's up to them to actually make it happen, right? I'm just there to help and support. So these are kind of the 3 things that exist within that. It's leading through real estate investing, through education, through guidance, the self-assessments, financial preparedness, financial intentions, adversity response. As a coach, this is mostly what I do right now with the guys that I do. One of the guys I have right now, he bought his first property in Ottawa. Just drew a blank. Buy, renovate, refinance, rent. That's exactly what he's doing. He's putting in a basement suite. Now, I've done these kinds of deals before, right? I don't know everything, but I know enough to help him out, and it's amazing how many questions a first-time investor has that I actually know and can help him out with. And we have this great relationship that exists where he can fire back off me, and I'm his insurance policy as he navigates through this world that he doesn't really understand yet. Say, I don't know how to talk to a mortgage broker. Okay, cool, here are the questions. Ask this, 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 and this. And we actually steered him away from the original mortgage broker he was going to go with because it was very clear she didn't know how to work with real estate investors. Very clear. I read all of her emails. I was like, she doesn't know how to build a portfolio, I guarantee you that. He's like, but she's my aunt's friend of 30 years and I have to work with her. I'm like, is this your aunt's portfolio or is this yours? Because we got to make a business decision right now, and I guarantee you this is not going to work. Here's a couple different options. And then when we looked at the emails from the investor-focused mortgage brokers, and Sean and Danelle can vouch for this, very different conversations. Very different, right? And so I'm like his insurance policy as he navigates the world of mortgage brokers, as he navigates the world of insurance properties or insurance policies for rental properties, which are different from insurance policies for homeowners, okay? As he navigates through working with realtors, through contractors, all that stuff, right? And he pays me to just be that sounding board so that he can go into those conversations and be more confident, right? It's a very valuable thing for him, and it's a fun thing for me to do, because I know what to say in order to be like, this is the questions that you need to ask in order to actually get what you need, okay? The last thing here I guess I can highlight is, again, some of the accessibility and introductions through conversations with people, right? So again, I don't know everything. My experience is as it is, but there are people within the universe who know different strategies and know different tools that they can use. So, if, for example, investing in a property is not for you, then maybe an option, like I said, is to invest in a real estate investment trust, or maybe a bond fund associated with real estate, or maybe you want to do private lending. And so at that point, it's just a matter of introducing you to a different stream that could possibly work. Or maybe I just got a guy who's got a deal, he can't qualify for a mortgage, and you've got a job. Boom. I know Cindy needs somebody like that right now, right? So those things exist within the real estate world. What I do is I coach and consult on different bases. I do hourly, okay? An hourly conversation as needed. We do it by Zoom. It can be recorded so that you can reference it later, right? Talking about whatever it is specifically that you want to talk about, whether it's the financial life conversation or real estate investing, right? Those are my areas. That's where I feel confident and I feel like I can help people and have the experience of talking about it. If you need assistance identifying what resources will you need, professionals to contact, what education to consider, I've done most of it. I've been a KeySpire member for 2 years. I know what the KeySpire MO is about. I've been a RAIN member for 1.5 years. I'm not a RAIN member anymore, but I know what they're about. Okay, so I know what these different universes do and how they can help you and what they can't help you with. Okay, so depending on what you need, I can do the sounding board for you. What you need to do at the end of the session, right? And then on an as-needed basis. You're not locked into anything. You just say, hey, I gotta have a call. Cool, let's do it. Okay. I do 2 other ones. I have a Financial Life Foundation subscription. It's $600 a month. And so this is a weekly call. It's an ongoing thing to keep people accountable to some of the plans that you put in place. Unlimited access by email, in between our coaching sessions. Again, we're talking about financial life conversations. We're talking about real estate investing. We're going to guide it based on your needs, what you want to accomplish, where you're at now, where you want to go, and why you want to do it, right? That's what exists within this. And then lastly is an optimization one. So this is a longer conversation on a weekly basis, additional calls. I would say that if somebody wants to do this, this is for somebody who's actually moving through a real estate transaction. They want to build a portfolio. They're going to get into action right away, right? Because this is where I'm in the middle of the deal and I got to make a call. I need your guidance right now. Okay, cool, I'm here, right? Through this, we're guaranteed. We'll complete all of the assessments. You figure out where you're at on a preparedness standpoint, your intentions, your adversity response. You get a copy of the vault. You got to go through that. Personal and professional development guidance. Again, guys, I'm 28, so I can't say everything. But I've lived in this world, in this space, for, I'd say, half my life. When I was 13, I made a goal that I wanted to make the NBA. And I didn't make the NBA, obviously. But I worked my ass off to try and make it happen, okay? I actually stole, so everybody knows Steve Nash, right? Steve Nash was my hero, right? I'm like, oh, okay, great. Short guy, he's not necessarily athletic, he's Canadian. All right, perfect. If he can do it, I can do it. And so that book is autobiography. It's called Long Shot. It was in the library, the middle school library. I stole that book from the middle school library because I didn't want anybody else to steal my dream. I still have the book. And I should give it back. Inspire another kid. But yeah, I lived that. I was like, holy crap, I can do this. And so I started playing ball every day. I used to play basketball like 12 hours a day. I have knee problems now, back problems, my hands are messed up. Totally worth it, right? Totally worth it. And when you get that obsessed with something, you realize what you need to do to try and make something great happen and to work through adversity. When you get cut from a team or somebody says you're not good enough, and then you stick it to them in the next game. Or you just got to figure out, how am I going to get better? How am I going to get better? And just keep showing up day after day after day. So I've lived in this kind of space for a long time. So despite the age, I mean, when I say personal and professional development guidance, it's really a matter of, okay, well, what's important to you? What are the skills that you want to learn right now? What are your relationships like with those skills? Maybe what's holding you back? I have the same things happening for me, but at the end of the day, I have people to have those conversations with. And sometimes somebody else just needs to have a conversation with you. So that's what that's about. Okay. I think I did that thing again. Oh, nice. Okay, so to wrap up here, I know I've been going on for a little while. You know, just in putting together these presentations, it's been interesting because I've transacted now in, I think, 12 properties. You know, we've done renovations, we own nice places. I have joint venture partners. Got a network of growing people and contacts, and it's fun to do this. The vehicle has been through real estate. It's been through real estate investing of different types: buy and holds, renovates, refinances, flips, private lending, equity partnerships, right? Like, there's a lot in this space, and it's cool to have the results of it. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, the properties are great, and, you know, but I don't wake up and look at this and go, yeah, property, right? It's what does the property do? And the property allows you to do the things that you want to do. It's the end of the day, right? I'm in New York with my friend Vito at the MBA shop. Some of you may recognize her. That's Julia Ferreira.
Oh.
Yeah, she was on the podcast that I now run. I do a podcast. I got this guy came on, Alan Kahn, just an amazing, amazing man. Actually, I haven't released that episode. You know, just hanging out with friends. My grandmother, you know, watching my longtime middle school buddy push me off his bungee jumping thing, right? Like, it's just, this is, to me, just some of the things that having the real estate and creating the portfolio allows someone to do, right? And that's really what it's about. So whether or not you decide to do something in real estate investing, you decide to do it another way, at the end of the day, I think it's really about what are you able to do as a result of it. And it all starts with a why. You have a strong why, strong reasons, and you can push through those tough times and get to where you want to go. So, I'm Doug. I'm very happy that I got the opportunity to come out here and share this experience with you guys. And I want to thank Cindy. I want to thank Danelle. I want to thank what you guys are doing here. I think this is great. It's a small group, an intimate group, and I'm sure you guys learn a lot from each other. And I hope you've learned a lot from me here as well. So I want to thank you all for being here and open to questions.
Thank you.
Doug, for coming out from Vancouver to spend the day Saturday with us here. I mean, that's a big chunk of your time just to be here. So I really appreciate it.
It's fun.
Everyone else here does.
Yeah.
Did you have questions?
Oh, no, but sorry.
Okay. One thing I wanted to mention too is I had a conversation with Doug before here, and just thinking back to the invaluableness, if that's a word, of having a coach. And I have had coaches before, even though I didn't think I needed them, I felt like it was buying into a relationship with that person, and I feel the thoughts and advice and perspectives and having a conversation with Doug on that kind of saved me the money that I invested with them and developed like a relationship with them as friends, coaches, colleagues, business associates. So, I mean, if you're really considering and investing in a relationship with any coach or advisor or power team member, it would, I truly believe it would save you, you know, the amount that you've invested with them and then some. Because I feel like the advice that he kind of, perspective, I guess, he gave me kind of really made sense for me and saved me, you know, some cash on that side of things.
Just to add on that real quick. So the guy who's buying, or he's doing the renovation in Ottawa right now, he was, so I work on an hourly rate with him, right? I think we've done about 10 coaching calls now. And when we first got started, he was looking at a property, and Ottawa is a hot market, really hot market right now, right? Properties are selling for way above asking price. They're moving quick. It's like offers are all going to be read at this time. You know, investors are having to do different things there to try and get deals done. And excuse me, he was going to write a conditionless offer on a property that I looked at and I was like, I don't think this meets what you're looking for, number one. But number two, he was gonna write a conditionless offer and he was actually gonna get a home inspection done before writing the offer so that he could at least have an inspection done. And I was like, so let me get this straight. You're gonna be in a bidding war for a property with like 10 other people, and you're gonna spend, it was $750, this was like a 4-unit building order, $750 home inspection on a property that you're not guaranteed to get. Like, dude, and he had it lined up. He's like, yeah, we're getting the home inspection done tomorrow. I'm like, get on the phone now, cancel your home inspection. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Right? I mean, sure, if you got the deal, great, $750, good for you. But at that point, does it matter? You wrote a conditionless inspection or conditionless offer on a home, right? Like, that's a risk in itself. And then you're going to get a home inspection done. Like, by that time, your deposit's in, you potentially got to buy the property. That's it, right? So right there, a quick conversation with somebody who's just done it a little bit, we saved him $750. So him paying me an hourly rate on the return on that was whatever, $650, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying that to promote myself, but what I am saying is, you know, to be able to ask the question or to have somebody just be like, whoa, hold on a second, like, don't do that. It saves you a lot of money, or it can make you a lot of money too, right?
And I do like that perspective of buying into relationships. Like even with Barry McGuire, I mean,
Yeah, totally.
I had a relationship with Andrea Workington. She taught me how to essentially do an agreement for sale before Barry had a chance to do his workshop. I still bought into his workshop for $3,000 with Barry McGuire, even though I knew how to do an agreement for sale. And he's just a really good friend right now. And he's accountable. He answers my emails, my phone calls, and, you know, just investing with that person and showing them that they have value to you and in return, you know, an exchange. So, I mean, just have that perspective and show that you appreciate, you know, the people that you surround yourself with by investing into your relationships.
Right.
So, yeah. All right. So,
Were there any other
last
questions for people while I'm up here?
Good.
We'll be hanging around, of course. So if you do want a card, you want to continue a conversation, by all means, we just want to pick some brains for a bit and get to know each other. That'd be great as well.
Is the Vancouver market slowing down a little bit at this point, or what's?
I mean, so you have different subsets of the market, right? The detached home section of the market definitely slowed down a lot, and values have dropped a decent amount. But in the townhome sector, in most areas, and in the condo sector, still pretty steady. Okay, we're not seeing the same kind of sales that you saw before, and you're not seeing the spikes in property values. If anything, things are flat, maybe going down a bit. But yeah, the detached home market, slow, has gone down. I was at a meetup on Thursday. They seem to think, but again, it's the realtors who are running it, so I'm always a little bit skeptical. They seem to think that things are going to turn around in 2020 and that the return of capital will exist in the market and that'll push prices up in the middle zone. Again, middle zone being condos and townhomes, right? But in terms of the single family homes, those detached homes, especially in Vancouver proper, probably still not going to see the same kind of activity that they once saw. So, yeah. But that's Vancouver, right? So, yeah. Anybody else?
one thing I wanted to add, speaking about markets in Vancouver and me attending a rain event with Holly here on Wednesday is interesting because Jennifer Hunt, she's just really into researching market economies, especially in Alberta here. And just for all of your information is that she's kind of somewhat concluded after all her research that it looks and sounds like that real estate in Alberta is going to be pretty steady for the next 2 years, and she has it down to 4 months. That it doesn't look like, with the way politics and the policies that are all coming about, possible coalitions that might happen, that real estate, we're not, even though there were thoughts out there that maybe 2020, 2021 for Alberta we might have be able to look forward to for some recovery. But it just doesn't look like it's going to happen for the next 2 years and 4 months. So just so you know, take it into consideration when you pick up your properties and you're hoping to recoup any equity or sell any properties, that, you know, just be wary of what's going on out there, and, you know, 2 years, but still kind of watch for some changes, because you just never know, any significant changes in politics or the economy or the industries can change things up or down still, but that's kind of the consensus on her end for now.
That all depends on your strategy at the time. Too,
Well,
right?
yeah, and
So it's
just
still
take
a
into
great time to be
consideration.
invested.
Exactly, yeah, but
If anything, it's probably a better time.
Yeah.
yes, to do the buy and hold. For rentals, one thing she also mentioned too is that, you know, the people that aren't selling their properties are turning their homes into rental properties. And then there's a huge market for people looking for rentals because they don't qualify for mortgages now. And it's just that rental industry that's kind of growing.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things when you start seeing the same conversation from a different perspective, right? So when the news comes out and says home sales are down and the stress test means there are going to be less people buying because they can't qualify for mortgages, an initial thought for some people might be, oh no, people aren't buying, that means my property values aren't going to go up because there's not more money to push property values up, right? Well, okay, potentially, but what does that mean for you as an investor and landlord? If less people are buying because they can't afford it, what are they doing? They're renting. And who are your customers? Renters. So, you know, it's something to think about when you see some of these headlines. If interest rates go up, is that a bad thing for me as an investor? A little bit, perhaps, if I have a mortgage refinance coming up. If I'm on a variable rate mortgage, that means my expenses just rose. But from a business perspective, if interest rates do rise a little bit more, again, that means less people potentially can qualify for homes, which means more people are renting, and renters are my customers. So there's always two sides to the information that we see, right? So even if things are staying flat, Tim's point and to Cindy's point as well, that means that there are opportunities to buy real estate because people are potentially wanting to get out, they may be willing to accept a lower price. They're not getting any offers. They haven't had an offer in 6 months, and then all of a sudden, boom, Cindy shows up with 2 offers on your property. And she gives them to you at the same time, double offer strategy. One of them is, say the property is listed for $250. One of them's $250, but the closing date's in 6 months. Okay? The other one's for $225, but the closing date's in 3 weeks from now. And there's pretty much only one condition. She's got to get her financing and she's got to have her home inspection. That's it. But on the other offer is $250. I'm going to give you full price, but we got a 6 month closing date. I got to check this, and this. You got to repaint the garage. You got to fix this. You got to do that. I haven't seen an offer on my home since I listed it. Now I've got 2, and I got to ask myself, am I going with this offer? Or am I going with this offer? As opposed to, am I going with an offer or not? Right? So in these kinds of markets, that's when you can pick up some of those kinds of deals, because you got people that want to move. They're not getting the offers that they expect, and then as an investor, you can give them a solution, right? So, yeah.
When you decided to sell one of the properties, how did you decide which one? Like, what you buy? Like, it's going to be that one? Or
Yeah.
you say, well,
Super
actually, we'll list both at the same time and see which one goes, or
Yeah.
this one.
So a couple different things. One, where's the real estate cycle at in my market? That was the first question I asked. I own property in Surrey, British Columbia, so Vancouver, Prince George, BC, and Calgary, and Regina. Okay, Regina right now, slump, maybe edging towards recovery, maybe not. Okay, so I don't want to sell in that market. Calgary, at the time, this was again a few months back, they were saying maybe we're going to get a recovery, but not so much, right? And I just bought those properties, and they both cash flow really well. So those ones are off the table. My property in Surrey, I'm never selling that thing. It's probably worth $525 now. So when we go to refinance it again, I'm just gonna leverage it to the hilt. It's not gonna cash flow. I'm gonna take all that money out, I'm gonna put it into cash flowing properties. So it's a wash, now I own 2, 3 more properties. So there. Prince George right now, at the time, booming, totally booming. And so investors who are down in Vancouver, they don't want to buy in Kelowna, it's too expensive, or maybe they do, but they want to find another spot. And so where are they looking? They're looking to northern BC. And so they started flooding the Prince George market. So if you priced an investment property properly in Prince George, you got multiple offers, and I sold in a week. And so that's what I did. So that was cycle was number one. Number two was, what's the long-term play on all these properties, right? My other ones, the newer properties, okay, I'm not gonna have maintenance issues. Are they cash flowing really well? Okay, great, no problems there. What about this guy? Cash flow's okay, but it's old. And when I walked in it to go shine up the pig to take it to a fair, I was like, this pig needs a lot of work. Do I want to fix this pig for 20 grand in the next 5 years? Because I guarantee you the new owner's gonna have to do that. And if that wasn't a part of their strategy, then you know, I wish them all the best. But you know, that property is gonna need a bit of work. And so I said, do I want to put that money in? Do I want to be responsible for that? Or do I want to say, okay, the market's good right now, let's sell it, let's recycle that money and go do a new deal. Or just give myself the cash I need to have financial freedom. And so that's how the decision was made. Yeah, look.
Another question. So you mentioned it's important to build relationships with bankers. So when you say that, are you referring to just getting instruments and being responsible about them? Is there something beyond that point when it comes to building a relationship?
Okay, so when I don't necessarily say relationship with bankers as I do with banks.
Banks, that's what I meant. Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Relationship with the mortgage broker, yes. I invest in that relationship heavily because I want that guy to know that when I have a deal on the plate, like, here's what we need to get done, let's communicate really well, right? So I've got a relationship with the mortgage broker. I do with work with some other guys, but I invest in that relationship. The reason why I don't have a relationship with bank people is because bank people tend to move, right? So one day they're your bank manager, the next day they're at the next place. And I'm like, oh, I finally found a good guy, and now he's gone. So I don't do that. But I do build relationship with banks. And so for the longest time, I'm an RBC guy, had an RBC bank account, and I thought you could only bank with one bank. And then I started to get involved in this world. I was like, well, that's silly. Why don't I build relationships with as many banks as possible? And so I branched out. I realized, I have a mortgage with Connexus Credit Union in Saskatchewan, right? Maybe they'll give me a line of credit because I'm responsible and I always pay my mortgage on time. So they gave me a line of credit. Okay, great, cool. I leave Saskatchewan, so I can't do the credit union anymore. They only service people who live there, right? But I have a credit card opportunity that I see with Scotiabank. Oh, okay, I'll get that credit card. 3 months later, I've paid my credit card responsibly. I wonder if Scotiabank will give me a line of credit. So they give me a line of credit. So now I've got a credit card with them and a line of credit. And I say, oh, well, this is working out well. RBC all of a sudden starts getting mad. They're like, don't forget about us. Pre-approved for a line of credit. Wow, sweet. So now I got access here, access here, access here. And I'm going, oh, I wonder if TD wants to make friends. So I go over to TD. TD's got a nice credit card. Okay, cool. Free year. If I do this, I don't have to pay for it. I open a checking account with them, tick all these boxes. They're going to give me $300. Great. Got a relationship with TD. 3 months later, TD's going, do you want to increase your credit limit? Okay, cool. BMO. Let's go to BMO. Let's see if the same thing works. The same thing at BMO. So I have a number of different accounts. And this may sound a little bit stupid and excessive, but I mean, it's about the concept of it. If a bank's going to give me free money to go do things and invest in, full steam ahead. They're making tons of money off us, guarantee you that. All right, so why don't we make a little bit of money ourselves? And so yeah, BMO came along. I opened a checking account with them. They gave me $300 to open up the checking account because I ticked all the boxes. I got a credit card with them. A few months later, pre-approved for a credit line. And this thing just keeps spinning. right? One of the things that happens actually when you have credit that's moving across different places is, and I don't know for sure, maybe somebody can share with me. I'm half looking at Sean because I feel like you might know. But when you have, like when I'm putting money on credit lines, where I have a renovation on a credit card and there's a decent amount on it, I think the banks are talking to each other. And they're looking at it and they go, I see you have $10,000 on your RBC credit card. Scotiabank's like, we'll take that debt. Balance transfer, promotional rate. We'll take 2% for you to transfer that balance over to this card, a transfer fee, and then you can hold the interest on that card for 1% for 6 months. So what Scotiabank just told me is, hey Doug, do you want $10,000 at 3% for the next 6 months? I'm like, okay, sweet, let's do it. Because I know I can turn around and take $10,000, put it into that duplex that I showed you guys, and make 50, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say building relationships with banks. And that took, I'm still in the process of building it out, but I mean, the amount of time that took was about 3 months per bank to build it up on each one. So it took a year. I have relationships before. I don't have a relationship with CIBC yet. Frankly, they just didn't have a good promo. I'm still looking for it. And when they do, I'll probably snap one. But again, like I'm not here to advocate having a ton of access to credit so that you can go buy your dream car and you both like be responsible with it, pay it on time, always don't carry balances unless it's a promo rate and it's cheap and you're using it to invest. It's responsible credit. Yep.
You don't want to have like 15 credit cards on your year.
This is true.
4 or 5 doesn't.
There is a limit.
4 or 5 doesn't really hurt you. And
Those are the 100%.
whenever they send you that email or call, do you want to increase your limit on your credit card? The answer is yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Because your balance to your limit ratio affects your credit score. So
yeah.
3,000 on a 5,000 card is harder on you than 3,000 or 10,000.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a really good one. Does that answer your question?
Don't ever cancel credit cards if you haven't.
Yes, don't do that either. 100%.
Hang on to it.
Yeah.
Build your credit.
Yeah. And the reason why that exists is because if you cancel the card, then with it goes the history, and that's what the next creditor will say. They're going to base that on the history. So if they can't see it or it doesn't exist anymore, then it doesn't count. Right? So, yeah.
I learned something there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can we sell your deal? Really want to sell some.
Let's see what people have to say. But.
Yeah.
Deal. Is that the railroad?
I just want to make sure that we're not jumping into your agenda though.
Oh, no, I think we're gonna wrap it up here with a couple last slides and reminder for next month's event and wrap it up and Q&A, networking if people want after that. But I guess if we're doing some deals and discussions and such, right now I'm hoping to do an offer on a foreclosure property. It's with Genworth, so Genworth is technically more negotiable than it would be with banks or court-ordered sale. And from experience, it's 219,000, 1,400 square foot house, legally suited with an attached garage. Did I say 219,000? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, in Red Deer, 2 bedrooms upstairs.
219.
Yes. Yeah. And 2 bedrooms upstairs, 2 bedrooms downstairs.
Your partner?
Yeah, equity partner. I think I might have one right now, and we're thinking about putting an offer in. And I was gonna say, hoping to secure an offer for much lower than that. Potential rents, possibly, after renovation, I'm thinking about $50,000 for renos because the inside is dated. Could use new kitchens, new bathrooms, new flooring, new paint. The garage actually has a loft on it, and access to the garage is on the outside of the house, so no interior access, potential to rent out the garage separately for $250. And yeah, so $250 for the garage, possibly $1150 for upstairs rent, possibly $950 for downstairs rent after reno, and potential for, I don't know if you have.
What area?
Glendale.
Is that a good area? I don't know the market.
It's decent,
Okay.
yeah.
Can we draw it out on the whiteboard?
Okay.
What it looks like?
I just don't want anyone to steal. Before we call.
Well, we don't have to.
And then nobody's allowed to touch it, Cindy.
Yeah, my full title with your name on it.
I think that'd be the honorable thing to do, but.
Cindy, can I ask, has the title actually transferred back to Genworth? Or is it still in the name of the people that are foreclosing from?
The title is in Genworth right now.
It is in Genworth?
Yes. Yeah, Genworth paid out the bank. That was calling it
Okay,
foreclosure.
the only reason I'm asking is, when you,
They're just a little dry.
when you buy a foreclosure, I've heard this from lawyers twice now, everything is sort of disclosed in the sense that the city can't come up to you with extra, utility costs, that any builder's liens are wiped off, whatever. Everything is wiped off with the exception of, federal government non-residence tax, and if it is still in the name of the actual owner, if they are a non-resident, you can be held liable for that, and you can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if it's actually transferred back to Genworth, then that's wiped off there.
I wouldn't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, well,
I've never heard of that either.
I've heard it twice now from lawyers. I guess there was a really famous case out in Vancouver where the purchaser had a what do you call it? The guys that do the signing for you. That watch when you sign something to make sure that it's you've signed that they can guarantee that you've signed it. They're not a lawyer or anything, but I guess they had agreed to do the title search to make sure that it was not a non-resident. And they thought, oh, the name is Smith, they're residents. They weren't. There was $700,000 owing, and that guy landed up being liable paying for them. So, yeah, so that's why I was kind of wondering.
That's odd.
Federal government is always gonna get their chunk, no matter what else happens. But if it's gone back to Genworth's name, that doesn't count.
I've never heard of a title not being pulled on a sale,
That would
like.
be, well, it's not that it's not you hold it, you have to guarantee that it wasn't a foreign person. Sorry.
Crazy.
That's okay. That might be a lawyer question.
If somebody can mortgage on this thing, and you had mentioned about if you have mortgageability or whatever, you can get an equity share or whatever. Can you maybe put that into this so that I can understand how to?
Yeah, well, it's really just a matter of what does that look like for your joint venture, right? Like how
Give the
much.
mortgage details? I
Yeah.
don't have my computer, I wanted to.
Are you talking about the mortgage,
Well, for this, yeah, just for.
the future mortgage on this? Yeah, no, 100%. That'll be part of the eclectic.
Turn into a pub too, right?
Where is that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I have the numbers here for some of
Well,
that.
anyway, but yeah, but.
Okay, are you ready to go through this rudimentally? You can see kind of what it looks like. All right, so Cindy's got this deal for $219. Okay, do you think you can get this for less than $219?
I'm hoping to, goal is 205,
Okay, so
maybe 210.
let's say she gets it at 205. Okay, so 205,000. A rental cost estimate. Let's say 50K.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's just a basic analysis, right? So she's got to come up with $205,000 by some sort of means, whether it's perhaps she's going to go talk with Sean and get a mortgage that'll work to do a fix and flip. Flip to yourself, pardon me, right? So she's going to need to come up with, like, Sean, if you were going to finance this deal, what loan to value would you get?
There's finance rental, 50%.
Okay. And you'd be able to refinance that in a few months?
No, do a flip mortgage.
Yeah.
And
So she'd need a 20% down payment?
Yeah, so it should be 41 plus some closing
Yeah.
costs, so 45 or something.
So she needs a down payment and closing costs, we're just gonna use rudimental numbers here. Okay, closing costs, down payment, let's call it 45K. Okay, so 95K here. Right, all in though, if you added this, if you added this to that, plus a bit of closing costs, she's probably gonna be into this, I'm gonna guess, the total value of everything in, including bank monies, is $260,000. Okay? Now, Cindy has comparables on this property, or in this area, similar kind of thing, for 320.
Yeah.
Okay? So at the end of this, if the future value upon refinance is $320,000, can somebody just tell me what 80% of this is? I think it's 256.
80%, 256.
56, okay? So she's gonna be able to refinance at a mortgage of $256,000. Okay, mortgage brokers, with the best rate that you can get on a rental property right now, what's your mortgage payment gonna be on that?
3.04.
Okay, so like $1 per month, 1,100? 1,150?
450 per 100, so what was the mortgage, 250?
256?
So about 1150 or something like that.
Okay, let's call it 1,150. Okay, you're gonna have insurance on this property? 2,400?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
No,
Seems a bit
less.
high.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what
that's
1,600.
different. property.
I'm gonna go, yeah, let's go
13.
Let's go 150 a month, okay, that's probably a bit high, but whatever. And then taxes. What are taxes?
22.
2,200?
Somewhere in
Oh, you missed a money
No,
tax.
the taxes is actually 25.50.
Okay, so 220.
Well, per year.
Okay, so, yeah, this is a monthly basis right now. So we've got one, here's our expenses, and here's our potential rent, because our tenants are gonna pay utilities, we're gonna split it up, right?
Yep.
And so our net income on this is $680 a month. Now, we didn't factor in a couple of different things. We didn't factor in property management, so we should, right? We won't, but we should. So you'd add 10% to this, so that'd be $220 a month plus GST. So we're down to $460 a month in cash flow. Still pretty good though. We're gonna have a maintenance fund, okay, probably 8%. That's what I do, and we're gonna have a vacancy fund, 8%. So that is cash that's coming in, but we're not actually realizing it. We're just putting that in the fund so that when we need it, we've got access to it. We don't have to call anybody and say, hey, we need a new fridge. You know, get somebody on the phone. They got to pony up $500, right? So we've got different funds, but that's the deal. And if you look at this, she's getting this much value out, and this is what she had to come up with. So, like, I mean, these are really rough numbers, right? You're gonna have to do a little bit more on it. But potentially speaking, you're gonna be into this building that's cash flowing bad for $4,000 once it's all said and done. Who wants to own a house that cash flows $400 a month for $4,000? You paid back your investment in 10 months, right? Does everybody see how that works? Right? I do deals like this all day. This is the exact thing that we just did in Regina on that duplex. The exact thing. our rental cost was just a lot smaller. And so what we did was we didn't even bother with the down payment. I didn't even want to come up with that. I just said, hey, do I know somebody who has $295,000? Yes. Okay. Do you guys want to take security of the asset? I'll pay you 12% to borrow that money for 2 months. So it cost me $6,300 to borrow. I borrowed $315 because I needed the money for the renovations and everything. So I borrowed $315,000 for 2 months at 12%. It cost me $6,300 plus my rental costs. And so at about 13 in rentals. So what are we at? $19,300 on top of the $295 that we bought the house for. Okay. So now we've got 300 and do the math here. 314, 315 total, right? Our new mortgage that we got on that, 80% of the appraised value that they gave me, 362.5, was 290. Okay, so I'm getting the new mortgage at 290, and then I borrowed 315 from the investor. Right, so I'm paying them back. I've already paid for all the renovations and everything. So at the end of the day, we're basically into the deal for 25 grand. Right? I've got a joint venture partner. I brought in 12 and a half. He brought in 12 and a half. We own 50-50. Cash flowing basically $400 a month. Great. I can do that deal. This is the same deal. It's just going to cost you less. Right? So
if Cindy borrows the 45 and the 50,000.
Yep.
Like, so you can have Cindy and you borrow that at 12%.
Yep.
And then that would just be until you can refinance it. Kind of thing, and you pay that person their money back.
Correct. We have to be careful with that too, right? Because, I mean, this is where dealing with the proper lender and having the right mortgage broker is important. Because if that bank, they're going to ask you, where are you getting the funds for this down payment from? And if you say, oh, I'm borrowing this money from a private lender, then they're going to be like, some of them, well, most of the Schedule A's, I think, would say, I'm out of that.
Because you could borrow it from like a, well, that's the thing, when you said you just happen to know somebody who had a lot of money hanging around, but like, I mean, what if you, like somebody has a unsecured line of credit, or does it have to be cash in the bank somewhere? Kind of thing. Is that?
There's certain ways around this. I've never done it that way. Yeah, I mean, gosh.
Yeah, but you knew somebody who had cash in the bank, or?
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
Like, so when you buy a property cash outright, then there's no mortgage, there's no anything. So when we go to refinance it, the bank just looks at that and says, oh, you own a free and clear home? Great, cool, we'll just refinance for it. No questions about where's your down payment coming from?
Yeah.
Well, our down payment is in the house.
Not necessarily true, sometimes they
Right.
ask.
I've never had it come up for me, so.
Sometimes they want it, you own it for a year before you refinance it. So they do it for-
Yeah, so, again, depending on who you're working with, I think,
Into the bank
it
is.
really does.
And which ones would be more apt to that?
This deal went through Scotia, just, that's who did it for us, so.
Social needs 30 days of proof of money in your account for down payment.
Yeah. That's true.
Others want 90 days. So.
So to maybe answer that point, and I've heard of people who do this, I haven't done it myself, but what they'll do is if they know they're gonna go buy a property and they're gonna do it on an unsecured line of credit, they'll move money into an account, checking account, let it sit there for a month. Then when the bank asks, where are you getting this money from? Then we say, okay, here's the statement. It shows the cash in the account, and they just say, I'm bringing it from savings, okay? Now in the background, they're gonna see potentially a line of credit with a certain amount of money in it, and they're gonna factor that into the ability to finance it, okay? But that's the way I've heard people working it out. I haven't done that personally.
Mm.
So that's what
I
you
did
do.
one 2 weeks ago, just exactly.
Right.
Exactly the same scenario.
Okay, so in that scenario, let's
Yeah.
say Cindy needs somebody to go on title, or like you said, that you were talking about in your presentation, to go on title because they could do the mortgage.
Yeah.
How do you factor all that in there?
So the way I see this
Yeah.
working out, let's say that investor on this deal, Cindy is the working partner. She's found the deal. She's gonna negotiate the price. She's got basically the rental plan, I would assume, and she's gonna take care of everything else. What she needs is somebody to come in with some down payment money and who can qualify for the mortgage. So that's the money partner / mortgage partner, okay? They're gonna come in, hopefully they can provide this amount of money. They're gonna provide the down payment, and maybe they've got access to a line of credit for the rental cost, or maybe they've just got cash that they can use. But they need to be able to qualify for the initial mortgage. Okay, so that's step number one, right? They need to go on title before we do the refinance, okay? And the reason why I say that is because if they come in later, then what did Cindy just do if she's on title? She sold the house. So that means capital gains tax to her, right? So we gotta set this up from the start. If I'm gonna go and do a deal with Cindy right now on this, I wanna be on title from day one. She wants the other person to be on title from day one. You're both gonna realize the gain. And then when it comes later, you've got the future value. You talk to your mortgage broker, you said, can I qualify for this mortgage? And if you can, then you need to be in at the start. And then you say, okay, we're done, let's go get the appraisal done. You say, I wanna get it refinanced, you talk to your mortgage broker, set it all up, they do the appraisal, sign all the paperwork, and then you walk away with this mortgage. You pay out the old mortgage, you get basically your down payment money back and your rental cost money back, and whatever's left is what you're into the deal for.
You always work backwards. You always start with the refinancing. Make sure it's been done.
Yeah, because if you can't do this, right, if you can't come here, then
So
there's
if,
no point in you being involved.
if you're a person that just wants to go on the mortgage, like I think you were suggesting, and you didn't want to do any of the property management or the money looking after it or anything like that,
Yeah.
then so like say I was the one or whatever, it would just be a, okay, I just get some equity out of the thing later on, like you're both in it, and then you would just split the difference later, that's what you're getting out of it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And you'd have the discussion with the working partner,
Right,
right?
right,
How much do you think going on title is worth? Right? How much equity is that worth? You don't do much, but you were an essential part of the deal,
right.
right? So,
That's very good.
We both be on title sometimes, depends on the status of the working.
you
partner.
can, yeah. I mean, the reason why I've been cautioned against that and why I don't do it is because in the future, the bank won't look at two people being on title as, oh, you've got half a mortgage and half a mortgage. They'll be like, no, you just have a mortgage. You're responsible for this. So even if you're half and half, but you're not actually bringing anything to the table, let's say I go back to mining engineering in 5 years. I sure as hell don't want to. Let's say I got a job and now I'm earning what I was earning before. But now, when I go to apply for a new mortgage, they're gonna look back and they're gonna be like, well, Doug, why do you have 4 mortgages? You're already at your total debt service ratio, right? And it's gonna be that much harder to qualify. Whereas the way we structured it, right? My brother's on all the titles. He's got all the mortgages. So when he gets tapped out, then assuming I could get a job in the future, if I wanted one again, that we wouldn't use my brother anymore, I'd go on title. We restructure things. Because he can get 4 or 5 mortgages, I can get 4 or 5 mortgages, together we can get 10. But if Doug and Mike are on all of them, we can only get 5.
That makes total
So-
sense.
I often coach husband and wife to do a similar scenario.
Yeah,
If you can buy it in one person's name, buy it in one person's name.
Yeah.
Because now you can easily own 8 combined as opposed to.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
that's good. This is great, thank you.
I have a question, I'm a bit behind on the math, I just want to check that.
Yes.
So, how do, I believe the 260 went to 263 because you renovated, the house is now worth 220?
okay, so
Correct.
this purchase price plus 50, and 5 of this is actually 41, 20% of that. Okay, so it's actually, it's 41.
That's maybe $200.
25 or more, right? Okay, so, but you're gonna have closing costs. Okay, so that's your legal fees, your home inspection, things like that. So I just tacked on an extra $4,000 because I felt like it.
You said 5% or
What?
20% or 5%?
This number, okay, so
That's 20.
20% of this is approximately 41.
Yeah.
Okay, but that is a part of this, right? It's not additional.
Correct.
This 50K is additional. So when you add that and you add our closing costs, again, these are pretty high, but say $4,000 in closing costs, total 54K that you additionally have to come up with in order to generate the additional value to get it appraised here. Right? So all total here, that's 259, right? I wrote it down here as 260 just because it was rounded.
Then where does the 256 come from?
80% of the new value.
Is 80% loan to value
So after
of
you've
your
completely
new value of
renovated
the
it.
home. That's the amount of money the bank's gonna give you when you refinance. And so that minus, or this, the amount you put in, minus your new mortgage out is what you have to keep in the building and equity. So at the end of the day, that's the total investment cost. So my ROI on net income of 680, you know, I times that by 8 months or whatever, or not even 8 months, probably 6 months, and I've made my $4,000.
The
So
mortgage
year-
payment's like 1,080, so you're actually making 750 a month.
Right, okay, so
So even better.
1,080. Okay, so
150 times 6, you're looking at 4,500. So you're up.
so
So that's like,
so what are we at here for net income now?
4,500. So 750 a month.
750. Okay, again, guys, we don't have maintenance, vacancy percentage, we don't have a property management fee here. All three things that you need to consider. Okay? Just pointing that out. So 750 times 5 is 3,750. So in literally 5.5 months, 5 1/3 months, you paid back your initial investment. So, and by the way, you've created $60,000 worth of equity. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect for
Yeah, this is
almost perfect.
almost, perfect would be you don't have any money in it. Right? And it cash flows. So,
I'm just curious about the story behind the 219 that's listed for.
why is it listed so low?
Yeah.
It needs 50 grand worth of renovations, so nobody wants it.
well, I think one of the biggest expenses on the building is the fact that a load-bearing wall in the garage that supports the loft, all the studs have been cut. And that might create fear in a lot of buyers' minds that, you know, an educated person would just think that you just need to replace those studs to support.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, I'd have to defer to a professional opinion if that's sufficient, because I don't know what has gone on in the past previously, whether some other supports have been taken out. But that's my thought. All the windows need to be replaced, and those can be expensive. They're aluminum sliders.
So just side note, I mean, like, we really did this quite basically.
Yes.
Before going into this deal, obviously, or during the condition period, Cindy, as the working partner, would go into the building and be like, what is everything actually gonna cost? And if our estimate is completely out from what it is, then we're gonna have to go back and say, is this still worth it?
Yes.
And if it's not, and then you walk away, but if it is, then you continue. Right?
Who knows, maybe the costs are 75,000.
I would say please be prepared for like 80.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
that was
Be
my initial
prepared.
thought.
Exactly.
Make sure it works if that's the worst
If
case
80.
scenario.
Yeah, and I think I did the initial calculations at 80 and it
Perfect.
still would work, and I think my cash flow was about 300 compared to 750. Still good.
And so all that means is just there would be a little bit more capital in the property. Right?
Yeah.
So not every investment needs to, or not everything of the strategy needs to be, oh, I'm gonna get a check on closing, as they say, right? Doesn't have to be, yeah, it's great to get it, but you know, I'm just looking for ways to create value for people. get into a property for a lot less than you otherwise would have to. Because this is on the continuum, if they're buying property on the easy side is ready to go, brand new, turnkey, no expenses, just put your money in and start collecting rent, right? A turnkey property, ready to go. On the middle is something kind of like this. It's an underperforming property, you need some work, something needs to change, rents are low, I gotta do a renovation, foreclosure, right? Opportunity to add value and then turn it into a turnkey property, either for yourself or somebody else. And on the very bottom of that is a property that is a rehab property, right? And at each end of the spectrum, you get the amount of money that you need to come up with in terms of equity and putting it in and keeping it there. And the maximized amount of value you can have on a turnkey property compared to a rehab property is much less. How are you going to create $100,000 worth of value in something that's already perfect, right? Versus if you have a rehab property, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, but it costs less. Then you put work in and you can create value and bring it up to another step.
So this property, the 320, you need 64K to buy it, 100% down. Right, if you buy turnkey property.
Yes, that's correct.
So if you can have, instead of 4,000, maybe it's 32 because of the limit to high stuff. Now you can buy 2 properties instead of 1.
Yeah.
Do the same process, so you got twice as many properties for the same thing.
Yeah, and your cost was in time and knowledge and risk.
If you do it perfectly, they get 0, you can
do as many of those deals as you can.
You just need working capital to get it.
Yeah. There's a couple out of North Bay, Ontario. They came on my podcast. It's not released yet, but maybe some of you have heard of them. They're called the Investor Couple, Mel and Dave Dupuis. They own over 100 doors in North Bay, Ontario, and this is all they do. They buy underperforming properties that need a little bit of work. They borrow investor money to do it. So basically they borrow this, and they borrow that, and then they refinance it. And they say 9 times out of 10, they get a check on closing. Actually make money on closing. When the refinance comes out, it pays out all their costs, and then they take a little bit of cash. 100 doors, over 100 doors doing that. Now it's North Bay, Ontario. It's a different story, different market. You can get a duplex there for 170 grand.
What are their names like?
It's Mel and Dave Dupuis. Got the podcast I did with them probably come out in a couple weeks. So, you have an issue
I
with
give
the
up on
pen,
this
right?
pen. Must be a prank pen or something. I don't know, man.
This guy really likes popping that pen.
Just explodes every time I use it. Thank you.
And the 10 police are on you. Yeah. Yeah.
So where and how do we listen to these podcasts?
I guess I can send you a link. I think.
Yeah, we can share one on the
Or you can just.
Facebook page.
Yeah.
Can you just Google your name?
You can just Google this. Sorry, I'm left-handed, so cover things in my right. That's the name of the podcast.
What's it called?
Grow,
The
give,
Grow, Give, Expand podcast. That's what it's
You're
called.
right left-handed.
I do, yeah. But yeah, right now I'm doing a real estate investor mini series, but a lot of the people who I've had on are real estate investors. So, varying different strategies, whether just more or less starting out or people who own hundreds of doors, people who private lend, people who are trainers, things like that. So they all have very different experiences, lots to learn from. That's why I like doing it, because some of these people you can't sit down and have a coffee with, they're just really busy. But if you can bring them on a podcast and allow them to share their story, you get as much time with them as you want. So anybody who wants to have conversations with those kinds of people, start a podcast. Get good at it, and their time is yours.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. That was the craziest thing I picked up. I was like, oh, I really want to do this. I really want to interview people. It should be fun. And I've got a background in audio and DJing, and like You know, I'd like to think I have a decent voice to listen to. But yeah, this guy, Alfonso, who was the workshop leader that I did my workshop with, he was so hard to get a hold of, you know, like he's incredibly busy. He's got a massive real estate portfolio, he runs a number of businesses, he's speaking, he's training. Like, I didn't take it personally, but it was kind of frustrating. And I just wanted, like, 30 minutes to talk with this guy and ask him to make sure I'm doing everything okay. And then finally, so I'd send him messages, and like, you know how you get the Facebook red and then you get the response like 3 days later? Like every time, send him emails, every once in a while I get a response. But then, the day I sent him the podcast email, I'm like, Alfonso, I'm doing a podcast, we'd love to have you on. Responds in 5 minutes. Really? How much time do you need? What he says. I'm like, 90 minutes, 2 hours? It's like, done. When do you want to do it? It's like, this date? It's like, okay, cool, it's in my schedule. I'm like, that. I gotta have 2 hours with a guy that I really looked up to, who wouldn't have probably otherwise taken a call, right? So, yeah, it's a cool strategy. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, be genuine about it, right? Like, I love having those conversations, so it wasn't a problem. But it was cool how that happened. It happened with a lot of the people who came on. And it's great. It's very fun.
So we'll just wrap it up here. Our past presenters, we're pretty proud of them and future ones, and we'll definitely add your picture up there.
Sweet.
Cash flow gain, December 15th. Anyone have questions about what that is? And
Is it still up at Moxie?
No.
we are
ABC, okay.
ABC restaurant, yeah. So we'd like to get as many RSVPs if possible, because then we can disclose that to the restaurant owner, and we can save that many seats and be prepared for so many people with so many games and have so many hosts. So response would be appreciated if you are interested in attending.
Do you have that invite out
That's
somewhere?
Saturday?
Sunday evening.
I feel like she put it on the bottom of the newsletter for this, right? You had it on there, the date. This invite, you sent it out through email.
I did have it on there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was just
okay.
asking.
Oh, okay, yes, it's on the email, and I'll send out another announcement.
You can
Yeah.
put it up on Facebook too. We'll put details on Facebook.
And
So what time is the tentative start? You know yet?
I think we said 5.
I think it's at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna eat first and then.
Give time to eat, and then the game usually takes
Order.
a couple hours at least.
I think we've concluded that people order their own food. We might have some appetizers, and I think it's a $10 entry fee on that. Cash flow, great game to kind of change your mindset about money, how to think about money, and how to spot good deals. And we kind of coach you to tell you, how the returns on investments and what might be a good deal, what might be a bad deal. And the beauty of the game is kind of get to see who people really are, how conservative they are when they play the game. But the whole point is to kind of take some risks, see what happens, and discover why deals might be bad and why good ones might be better than others. January 18th, Dave DeBow is coming to present for us. He's a very reputable speaker and presenter, well known through Western Canada, all throughout Canada.
He teaches you how to find investors.
Okay, and capital
Capital
joint ventures, and he's familiar with all strategies, so.
And he does podcasts as well.
Anyone else with deals or questions or discussions or thoughts? No?
Can I just run back to the cash flow game? Is that just members only, or can we invite people?
Anyone? Yeah.
Anyone?
It's like a drop in, like, to this event kind of thing. And thank you for coming. December 15th is our cash flow game, and wrap it up. We can network or go home and do other things. Look for deals. All right. Thank you.